This week, we're working on the Grom Reaper. And we're making an electronics box for this bike. We're making it out of 20 gauge sheet metal. We're making it from scratch. We're making an electronics box from scratch. And not just a simple tube, we're trying to make this thing conform to the existing fuel tank so that it kind of looks at least that it's one piece with the fuel tank. And it's going to have a bunch of little features built into it. And I, of course, started out with some templates, some paper templates I had created previously, then cut them out on the plasma cutter. Then we rolled some of those templates in our sheet metal roller. And then it was time to start putting this stuff together. And currently in my welding journey, I'm at the point where I'm getting more comfortable brazing this thin sheet metal together. I'm not comfortable welding it. So today we are brazing this stuff together. All right, so we got a cool hinge from the metal store. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this. All right, so now we're gonna do the side doors that hinge open, and they're going to need to be pretty solid on their own. So I'm doing some heavier gauge stuff here because there'll be no extra reinforcements on the back side of this door. The rest of the box is 20 gauge. This is gonna be 14 gauge. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my little template on here, trace this out, and then we'll plasma cut it out. All right, so after a bit of metal shaping and whatnot, we've got two of these guys, which are sort of side piece here. This is going to be our door. It opens and closes. So it's going to fold down like that. And I'm going to cut a hole, and I'm going to cut it straight down to the bottom, and then we're going to have a hinge on this guy, and boom. All right, so my bottom plate on my box that we're making, I've cut out the edges here to accommodate these hinges. The hinges are going to go underneath like so, and be like that, and this, so this will be flat with the outside of the box basically, so that this guy and then go on here like so and hinge down. I think my next step is to tack these hinges on. And there I've got a couple brass tacks on there, so to speak. Bronze tacks. So that should be enough to hold it. I'm going to flip it over and do the other side. Alright, so these are done. We've got like 3 little brass tacks, little bronze tacks in there. Next I'm going to go ahead and do the other hinge on the other side. Alright, both sides are done now. We've got these cool little wings, little hinge wings on our little box here. So, pretty happy with how it's coming out so far. Alright, so right now I'm contemplating how to weld the bottom onto the sides, or the sides onto the bottom, and I'm really trying to minimize the warping. If I weld everything together with this fully intact, I'll just cut out a little piece here for the hinge to fit over, and then weld all the rest of it together, and then come in at the last minute and cut out my big opening. Just a little bit on the bottom, and that little bit is just enough to fit over. Alright, so we got some things here. Things to make an electrical box for the Grom. This is the basis here. We've got this thing welded on. We got some hinges welded on here. I've got to cut a hole about this size in there for my giant grommet. Then on the bottom of this box, on the outside, we're going to put this regulator rectifier. We're going to use the stock bracket for that regulator rectifier, but we're going to modify that bracket with these pieces here. And we're gonna put a battery in there. We're gonna hold the battery on with these little things here. So now we've got this guy. Cut this guy so it'll have this little flaps on the inside, which will help. The reason I chose this, it should be big enough to allow my electrical connectors, my big fat electrical connectors, to go in and out of this box. Check it out. Yeah. Alright, so we've soaked some nuts in vinegar here and I've got it bolted on. The plan is just to braise the sides of this thing into here. So we've got a captive nut on the inside of our tank, ultimately. Alright, we're quite proud of this because it came out pretty neat. Nice and neat looking. Look at that, it's like I know what I'm doing. Yeah, so that came out pretty nice and I'm pretty stoked with that. Now we get to weld all this stuff together into a box. Alright, there it is, it's done. Well, it's not done, but it's welded up. Now we still got to cut the sides out of it and weld on the doors. Alright, my next step on this thing is put this little bolt and weld it on top of the tank like that, just like on the gas tank. All right, we have accomplished the stud placement. All right, and then next, the regulator rectifier is to live on the bottom on the outside. So somewhere like in here, I made up this little bracket. This guy's gonna go in there. Reg's gonna go right there. Then this will be outside and nice and cool. Hello, my friends. All right, so now we have actual openings behind the doors here. And so now we need to trim these things out a little bit more, shape them, make them nice, and so die grinder time. All right, so here it is, basically complete. Door opens on this side, door opens on the other side. You can see all the way through there. Oh, yes. All right, here it is. It's our electronics box. You can see the regular rectifier on the bottom, and then our door opens up very nicely. Look at that, isn't that cool? There, and then on the inside, we've got our battery all strapped down. It is nice and secure in there. And we got some wires here from our ignition. And here's our ignition on the other side, just sitting right there. Yeah, and the fuse panel and the computer will be inside here. I'm quite happy how this turned out. And you close it up like that, and then picture two brass screws holding this thing closed. And then looking at the top, speaking of, it's starting to feel like an old school motorcycle with this weird, very basic tank on top of it. So pretty happy how that turned out. That was a lot of work, quite a bit of thinking to get that thing sorted out and all the little pieces to come together. I'm hoping soon to begin working on the seat. I've got a surprise on the seat there. I think it'll be pretty wicked. Look forward to that. See you next time. Thanks for watching.